am Stephanie, an artist living in Vannes, France, and in today's video I'm going to share with you the process of something completely new to me, a digital painting. But before we dive in, I would like to thank you for your kind support on all my latest videos. Honestly, you've been so kind to me, so many supportive comments. You guys are really the best. I've been enjoying uploading videos on YouTube regularly lately, and I really enjoy the community that is around here. You guys are nothing but supportive, so yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Now, this video is also sponsored, something new as well, and more specifically by Artcraft. So Artcraft is a platform where you can learn to paint digitally, and they came to me a few months ago to ask if I could promote their website and more specifically their digital art courses on my YouTube channel. And one of the possible rewards was for me to take the class. Since I wanted to learn how to paint digitally anyway, I agreed. And to be honest, I was pleasantly surprised by the quality of that course. It was so much more than what I was expecting. In the end, it was 8 weeks of course with homework and homework review. So we had a great teacher, Bryant Momokoshu. He's a digital artist, concept artist. I will link everything down below so you can find him and the platform. And yeah, he was really great teacher. I learned a lot during that course. Actually, I learned also a lot for traditional art. It was really for beginners, and yeah, the basics of drawing, shadows, coloring, etc. With a focus of course on digital, and then more specifically on Photoshop, which I would say is the only thing that wasn't great for me, because I really wanted to learn on Procreate, and yeah, it was very Photoshop driven. But it's not really an issue because it's not that different, Photoshop from Procreate. It's just a lot more complex and you can do a lot more, and Procreate is, I would say, more intuitive. So yeah, I really enjoyed that course, and if you're interested in learning to paint digitally, or even to, you know, to learn to paint and to draw, honestly, this course is great. So I will link everything down below. And yeah, thank you for Artcraft for letting me take this class, and to my teacher, Bryant, who was just amazing, very kind, and honestly. And then we also had, but that was specific to our student group, but we created an Instagram group chat where we would share our progress and just chit chat. And I don't know, this course was really great. I really enjoyed it. It was a bit exhausting for me because of course of course the lessons and the homeworks arrived at a moment in my life, or not life, but art career, that was especially busy. So April for me was exhausting. I had 3 artworks to make for group shows. There was an illustration challenge which I wanted to participate in, and on top of that, the homework for that specific course. So it was a lot for me to take in, but I learned so much, and I realized I really enjoy taking courses. I really like the feedback of a real teacher, and I really like to be forced to do homeworks, because when I try to learn by myself, usually I don't make the time for it. So for instance, I bought a few watercolor books, Botanical watercolor illustration, and I've never done just one exercises in them. Same goes for ink drawing, and yeah, those 2 things that I really wanted to learn better. And I got the books, I have everything that I need at home, but I don't take the time to do actual homework. And I realize when I actually pay someone to teach me and to get that feedback from a real life teacher, it's actually so much better, and I've been really enjoying that. And I think it is from now on something that I will be doing on the regular. I actually already took another class. It's going to start this week, this Thursday, and it's going to be about botanical illustration drawings, so only graphite, with a teacher. It's an artist, a botanical artist, botanical illustrator that I've been following on Instagram for a while, and so she's teaching online I would say thanks to the pandemic. Otherwise, she would have taught, I think, in real life, and it would not have been an online course. But yeah, that's at least a good side about the pandemic, is that suddenly you have access to a lot more online courses that you would not have access to normally. So I decided to take that lesson. I'm not sure how it's going to go. I'm probably going to do a video about that as well. Okay, but back to the digital painting. So this painting is my diploma, so to speak, so it's the last one I did for the course. I didn't do a lot more really thought through paintings in that course. It was a lot of exercises, drawing from references, you know, also from imagination and things like that. Nothing really good enough to show you, but for one maybe, but yeah, nothing incredible. So this is really the first proper painting that I made digitally in all my life. And I have to say, after taking that course about digital painting, I have a whole new appreciation for digital artists, because it is actually really hard. It looks easy. I don't know why. I always thought digital painting would be maybe not easy, but easier than what it actually is. I think it's really difficult. It's difficult because you have too many options, because you can zoom in, you can really zoom in too much. And I don't know, it's quite different from traditional art. You don't really have tools. Everything is virtual and possibilities are endless, but at the end of the day, you need to make decisions and yeah, paint something that looks like something, if that makes sense. In the end, I realized, thanks to another artist that I follow on Instagram, Zoekellerart, she started Procreate a few months ago, maybe a year ago, I don't remember. She's a very good draftsman and she wanted to go back into colors, and so she started to play around with Procreate. And basically she stuck with it, and she made a few stories explaining how she does it. So it's not really tutorials, but honestly it helped me quite a bit. And one of the advice she gave is to use the most normal brush, so the round brush. I actually use an untitled brush in Procreate in the airbrush category, something extremely basic, and honestly this has been the best advice I could have been given. I think during my digital art course they gave basically the same advice, to take like the most basic brush, the round brush, because when you start playing around with brushes, they're just so weird. I cannot quite explain it differently, but it's like digital brushes try to mimic real brushes, but they're not real brushes, so they do things that normal brushes would do, but in a very random way. So if you're using watercolor brushes in digital art form, then they will do things, but not like you would paint with a real brush. So they're very difficult, I feel, to manage. I'm sure you can manage them. There's quite the learning curve for every damn brush, and you don't have the time or the luxury to spend so much learning on every brush. So when you start out, I feel like just staying with a normal round brush is so much easier because you understand what it's going to do. Now in this digital painting, and I have not recorded it because I was quite focused on trying to find the right ways of doing it, but the sand that you see in the background, I used textured brushes for that, and if I recall correctly, I used spray cans brushes, or spray brushes or something like that, to mimic basically a lot of small dots and to be a bit faster to do the sand. So at that point I used different brushes, and then I also used different brushes to get the plates, the plastic plates and boxes dirty. So again, I just kind of tried textured brushes and went with that. I cannot even say which one I used because I used a lot of different ones until I found some that I liked better. And I still did use the normal round brush to like just draw dots and lines all over because it's just so much easier. So yeah, if I had learned one thing, then it's that. And then the two other things that are very Procreate things is when you tap two fingers onto your tablet, then it undoes whatever you just did. so that I used all the time. And then you can also pick a color if you just put your finger on top of your tablet on a color you like, and then you can pick that specific color instead of going through the color wheel. So yeah, that's basically the two things that I find very practical in digital painting. And then for the rest, honestly, I'm not sure you can say rules, but there's an approach to digital painting that I did not quite follow because it was too bothering for myself. Normally, you really want to layer your painting and you work in layers in a controlled manner. In a controlled and organized manner. So to make it really short, you will have the background, then you will have the drawing, the line art, they call it, fancy line art. Then usually you have the colors. Now the color layer might be before the line art depending on how you want it to look like. So the line art might be your last layer that you're going to see. Then you have a layer for shadows, then you have a layer for lights, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Now I didn't do that because honestly I find it very unnatural to not work everything at once. So yeah, I did have layers for themes, like I had the background, the sand basically, then I had a layer for the plates and boxes and everything like that, then I had a layer for growth, and basically I had one layer for growth and then another layer for growth on which one I would work, because now I don't know if it's something very common or if it's just my hands, but when you work on a tablet, sometimes with your hand, instead you do lines or dots of colors that you didn't want, and you don't always see them on time. So so to avoid, you know, drawing inadvertently on top of the rest, I always worked on a smaller layer, or a layer of like the latest growth, and then I just merged it to the bigger growth. I'm not sure it makes much sense, but yeah. But what I did wrong, so to speak, it's not wrong, you do whatever you want, but I worked shadows, lights and colors all at once. And for me it's much easier to work that way because it feels more natural. So I still layer the colors, you know, I still start more or less with the colors and then the shadows, and then I add the light, or sometimes I start with the shadows. I'm not super organized that way, but I feel like it's much more easier for me to just, you know, go from object to object and work color, shadows and lights on one layer than to switch back and forth between all the layers, because that's just, I'm losing my time, I'm losing my mind, and then I forget on which layer I am, and I don't know anymore, and so it's kind of a mess. The only shadows that were on a different layer were the shadows underneath the growth that were seen on top of the plates. So yeah, for those I had a specific layer, but for the mussels and oysters, everything that you see was on one layer, and I thought it was much easier that way. I'm no expert on digital painting. I still have a lot to learn. I don't know yet if I'm going to do a lot about it. I really wanted to learn this. Maybe I should have started with that. I wanted to learn to paint digitally because I got an iPad for a job, unrelated. Basically, I was contacted last year to test out an application, and they bought me an iPad because it was on iOS and my phone is on Android. So yeah, I said yes. I mean, if someone wants to pay you an iPad, usually you say yes. Suddenly I got an iPad. So they only paid for the most basic version, but I wanted a better version, so I took the smallest iPad Pro with a pencil, the second generation pencil, I think. And then I installed Procreate right away because I really knew I wanted to try that out. I've seen that used in real life and by most illustrators, and yeah, I've been curious about it for a long time. But then I didn't do anything about it. You know, just like, there are many tutorials online, but I already have a busy schedule with my own artwork, and I'm already trying to improve on every other aspect of my art career. So digital painting, I never really took the time to try much. I tried a bit, I didn't quite like it, And then this course really helped me to force myself to draw with it. And at the beginning, I really hated it. It's just that plastic pen just doesn't do it for me. I mean, there's a certain magic to working traditionally because you have the tools and you have the paper and you have something that is very tactile. And when you work digitally, you lose all of that. And this is also a reason why I'm still very unsure if I'm going to do much digital painting in the future. But in any case, now at least I know how to handle it a bit better. And I feel like it's always, it can come in useful. I feel like it can be interesting for quick sketches maybe, color sketches especially. I prefer sketches still on paper. I'm just much more faster. I actually used it recently for my jellyfish sculpture on a book. And I wasn't quite sure about the color scheme, and so I used my iPad. I took a picture of the sculpture and then I just added colors until I found the combination that I enjoyed. So I feel like I might probably use my iPad more for that, or maybe I sell it altogether. That's a real possibility, to sell it altogether. But you never know, maybe I'm going to start writing comics for webtoons, so who knows where this will lead me. In any case, I really enjoyed learning about that. I think it was a very enriching course for me. I learned a lot also for my traditional artwork. I learned a lot about art in general, and also I think what was really interesting to me was to be with artists that are very different from the artist I usually talk to. So since I'm more of a fine art artist, I tend to talk more to people who do artworks that are extremely personal, that are not for clients, that, you know, tell a personal story. And in digital art, usually people work for clients, or it's less about meaning than getting a message across. Viewing and doing the art, it's just quite different. So I think that's also really interesting to kind of see and learn how, you know, artists, but in slightly different domains, work and approach art than what you usually do. I feel like it's so easy to get stuck in your ways and to do something always the same because you're just so used to it. And when you take courses of things like that, digital painting, but also the botanical illustration course that I'm going to start soon, I feel like when you start and follow those teachers and those approaches, you learn a lot about yourself and about your own boundaries and about what is important to you. So yeah, I can only encourage you to take courses, and I know for a fact that I'm going to take more in the future. So now this one and the next one will be the botanical, and probably not much more this year because these things are quite expensive. But yeah, I'm going to make this part of my practice to follow courses. You just learn so much that you didn't expect. I feel like this is what I really liked about that course. It's the unexpected. Like, you take a course for something specific. In this case, I wanted just to learn how to paint digitally. And in the end, you learn so much more about things you didn't really thought of so much, you know? So in that case, shadows. I'm really bad at shadows in 2D, probably because I do so much sculpting. So shadows are always a thing that I do shadows, but they're often not quite bold enough. Sometimes I forget, or I'm not very consistent with my shadows across a painting. But yeah, I learned that and color bouncing. I refreshed my perspective knowledge. I did that in architecture, so it wasn't news to me. But yeah, and just general drawing and approach and composition, but in an efficient way. So yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed this class. So yeah, that's all I have to say, I think, for today. I really hope you enjoyed the process of this. I didn't really know how to film it best. I didn't want to show you just the screen of the tablet because I think it's kind of boring, and you don't really see what's happening because you don't see the hand and the pencil. You just see what's happening, but not how, I don't know, I just find it less natural than seeing the tablet with the pencil. Yeah, so I really hope you enjoyed this different video of mine. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and as always, please comment, because that helps the algorithm. And I know you've been super supportive, so just keep going. Thank you so much for your kindness and support. Really, you guys are the best. I'm really happy to have you as a community. You're just also nice. So yeah, thank you for that. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye! Also leaving some music from Amarante, as usual. Anyway, bye!